Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're here, you probably saw my last video where I finished my coloring sheet. That was just the beginning, and today I'm trying something a little different. I started another sheet, this time using watercolors, which is totally out of my comfort zone. I'm going to be honest up front, it's a messy process. Watercolors behave differently from pencils or markers. The paint spreads, the colors mix unpredictably, and sometimes it doesn't look like what you envisioned. So in this video, I'm only doing the painting part. No outlines, no final touches yet. That means it might not look perfect right now. But that's okay, because the next part is where I'll add the details, outlines, and final touches, and that's when it will really come alive. So stay tuned for that. While I'm painting, I wanted to share something a bit deeper, thoughts about phases of life. Sometimes I feel like our lives have these very distinct stages, almost like chapters in a story. And each one comes with its own challenges, joys, and surprises. The first phase I want to talk about is school, up until around 10th grade. When you're in school, everything feels small and big at the same time. The next big thing is usually the 10th board exams, and for many students, that triggers a whole coaching phase. Suddenly, life is structured around a goal. You're thinking, how can I do better? How can I prepare for the next step? It's the first time many of us experience that kind of structured pressure. But at the same time, it's also simple in a way. Your responsibilities are mostly limited to schoolwork, exams, and maybe helping at home. Then comes the next phase, 11th and 12th grades. This is a juggling act for so many students. Boards are still there, but now you have entrance exams looming, JEE, NEET, CLAT. The list goes on depending on your goals. And it's funny because this is also when you start realizing that life is not just about studying. It's about planning your future, figuring out what matters, and learning how to manage multiple priorities at once. You know, since we're talking about school and these phases of life, I've also noticed such a huge conversation happening around board exams and entrance exams lately. It feels like boards and big entrances have become almost synchronized stress events for so many students. Some people say board exams matter a lot because colleges still check them. Others say entrance exams like JEE, NEET, CLAT should overshadow boards because of their difficulty and direct relevance to career paths. And honestly, I can understand both sides. It's confusing and stressful. So I'm curious. Did you recently give your board exams? How did they go for you? And now that results, admissions, and all these decisions are happening. Which colleges are you considering? What's your dream college or dream path? Are you chasing a dream university or looking for balance and peace in college life? Some students I know are even taking gap years after 12th, not because they couldn't decide, but because they want time to breathe, explore interests, and figure out what they truly want. I'd love to know your take on that too. Because I think this phase of life, where boards, entrances, choices, and identities all mix together, is something so many of us go through, and it can feel overwhelming, exciting, and uncertain, all at the same time. You know, talking about school and college makes me think about some things students are really discussing right now. Lately, there's been a big conversation in India about CUET and how it connects with board exams. Some universities give more weight to entrance tests, some to board marks, and students are honestly confused about what matters most for admissions. Then there's a lot of open talk about mental health and exam stress, which I think is really good. People are finally admitting that boards and entrance prep can be overwhelming, and that mental well-being matters. Another thing I've noticed is that some students are considering a gap year after 12th, not because they don't want to study, but because they want time to breathe, explore creative interests, or prepare better without pressure. Let me know in the comments how your experience has been. I'm really curious. After that comes college, which is a very different experience. In college, you often have more freedom than ever before, but also some limitations. You can relax, explore new things, discover hobbies, travel a bit, make friends, go out late, experiment with life. But you also realize there's a catch: no money of your own yet. Even though you don't have serious responsibilities, you don't have the purchasing power to buy everything you want. You need to ask your parents for money, or you have to budget carefully with what you get. And sometimes that feels limiting, but it also teaches you how to manage money, how to prioritize, and how to value things you earn later. And then comes the final phase: entering the professional world, starting a job. Now you have money, which is amazing. You can buy that dress, that gadget, that little indulgence you've been eyeing for years. But now comes the flip side: responsibilities of adulthood. Bills, deadlines, taxes, family obligations, career growth, relationships, long-term planning, all of it hits at once. And it's funny, because every phase teaches you something different. In school, it's discipline and focus. In 11th, 12, it's multitasking and goal setting. In college, it's freedom, budgeting, and exploration. And in your career, it's responsibility, time management, and learning how to navigate the world. It's almost like life gives you a practice round first, letting you fail safely, make mistakes, and grow before it hands you bigger responsibilities. And as I think about all these phases while painting, I realize that life is a lot like this watercolor sheet. At first, it's messy. The colors don't stay where you want them. They bleed into each other. Sometimes it feels like it's going nowhere. But slowly, step by step, layer by layer, it starts to take shape. And eventually, if you keep going and add the outlines, the final touches, it comes together in a way that feels meaningful. That's what I love about this medium. It feels like a visual metaphor for life. Messy, unpredictable, but full of potential. While we're on the topic of life phases, I also notice how our relationship with color evolves as we grow. In school, bright colors are everywhere: notebooks, pencil boxes, clothes, festivals. In college, there's a mix. You want fun colors, but also something grown-up. And then in the professional world, many of us default to neutrals for work, because the environment often dictates it. It's funny, because even though you have more freedom and money now, sometimes life feels less vibrant than when you were a kid. But I think that's why hobbies like painting are so important. They let us reconnect with that vibrancy, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect. Speaking of mess, I can't stop noticing how watercolors behave differently. They don't follow the rules. They don't obey your intentions. And it reminds me again, life doesn't always follow our plans. Sometimes it bleeds in unexpected ways, but there's beauty in that too. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who's watched my first videos, especially my second video where I finished the coloring page. Your support and feedback have meant so much, and it encourages me to keep making these longer, slower storytelling videos. If you have ideas about the next parts, maybe a video about painting techniques, a deep dive into childhood memories, or reflections on work-life balance, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments. I read everything. And while we're painting, I just want to share a personal thought. Sometimes it's okay for things to look messy or unfinished. Life, like this watercolor sheet, doesn't always look perfect while it's happening. But that doesn't mean it won't come together beautifully later. That's why I can't wait for the next video, where I'll do the outlines and finishing touches. That's when it will truly shine. And in the meantime, we get to enjoy this in-progress stage, which is a little chaotic, a little unpredictable, but completely authentic. So as I continue painting, I'll probably keep sharing stories. Small ones, personal ones, reflections on growing up, on life, on responsibilities, and on the little joys in between. Whether it's school, college, or corporate life, there's always something to learn, some perspective to gain, some joy to notice. And maybe that's the most important lesson of all: appreciating the process, not just the outcome. So thank you for spending this time here with me. I hope you can enjoy the messy process along with me. And I really hope you'll stay tuned for the next part, where this sheet finally comes alive with outlines and finishing touches. Until then, keep exploring, keep creating, and remember, it's okay to be messy sometimes. That's where the magic begins.